With the new Hunter the Waxed Artist being announced, and after the Naiad apocalypse where everybody was playing Naiad, it can seem that Identity V is moving at a very fast pace, new characters being released every couple of months or every couple of weeks, each new character being stronger than the last one, leaving behind the hunters that came before them. Still, some of the older hunters and older survivors are still at the top of the meta list, including Bloody Queen, Guard 26 and Dream Witch. But what about the original hunter? Let's discuss. Hell Ember is the first hunter that you unlock in Identity V. He's the first person you learn to use in the tutorial, he's the first person you learn how to chair people with, and he is probably also the only hunter that you're going to play in the first couple of days if you play in the game until you unlock a new character by using the clues to buy somebody new. The same goes for Lucky Guy. He's the first survivor you ever play as in the game, and what many people do is they move on very quickly to another survivor as soon as they have enough clues, usually either using Magician or Explorer. With all the recent buffs and nerfs for hunters and for survivors, you'd expect NetEase to have put Lucky Guy and Hell Ember in a pretty healthy place in the meta tier list. Yet that just isn't the case. You almost never see Hell Ember or Lucky Guy in rank or tournaments. But why is this? The obvious reason would be that most people don't want to play the characters that they started playing the game off with. They are the characters they've always had, and they're not new or refreshing, they are just the characters that everyone has played at one point in their time playing the game. This is usually because the first characters that you play in a game usually have this stigma that they're not good enough or that they're not powerful enough, because they are designed for beginners to use. But I don't think this is true with the characters such as Hell Ember and also Lucky Guy. But this isn't a good enough argument because pro players still don't use Hell Ember or Lucky Guy in tournaments. It isn't just a weird stigma and a belief that they are bad, because pro players will use whatever they can to be able to win the game. So if the character is powerful, they will play it. It doesn't matter if that character is unpopular. Let's begin with Lucky Guy. On paper, his ability does seem very powerful. The ability to go and find a chest and take any item that you want, or at least to get a higher chance of getting the item that you want, does seem to be very powerful. What you can do is you can choose an item that is powerful against the hunter that you're going against, or for some weird predicament or situation that you are in that you need an item for to be able to solve. Not only that though, but he also has some good stats. He doesn't have any type of debuff and his vaulting speed is quite normal. His decoding speed is also pretty decent. He even has the veteran boost that means if he gets hit that he also has an extra 2 seconds of speed boost. This is a pretty decent ability. Skilled Lucky Guy players know how to use each item to a similar level to someone who would main the character's item. For example, Lucky Guy would be able to use a Magician's Wand similar to a Magician main, or a Perfumer's Perfume to the same level as a Perfumer main. Usually Lucky Guys have a lot of different skills, and because of this, you'd think that they would be very powerful. At least in rank or competitive situations, his ability isn't powerful because it takes time. Compared to other survivors that have their items at the very beginning, they can use it as soon as they get found by the hunter. Lucky Guy has to go out of his way to go and find an item. This means that the time it will take him to travel to a red chest, the time it takes him to choose an item, open the chest, take out the item from the chest and then finish that animation and go back to a cipher. This time could have been used to decode a cipher and promote Cipher Rush. Especially in a tournament situation or just in rank in general, any time that you could be decoding, you should be decoding. The less time you're spending decoding, the more time you're giving the hunter to be able to eliminate survivors. You have 2 options as Lucky Guy. You can start the match by just going to a cipher and decoding and waiting until the later game to be able to go and open up a chest to find an item, or you can start the match by going directly to a chest to find an item, but then starting decoding later. I have already talked about some of the flaws for this second problem, but the first problem also does have a lot of flaws itself. If you start the match by decoding and you don't have an item, this means that if a hunter decides to come to your cipher and chase you, you are now kind of helpless. Yes, you may be able to kite, but compared to another survivor that has some type of ability or some type of item that would help them to kite longer, you are in a vulnerable state, and meaning that you are kind of a hindrance to the rest of your team. The longer the kite, the more time again that you're guaranteeing your team to be able to decode. Some people may make the argument that by playing Lucky Guy, you should have actually been playing the character whose item you were going to pick in the first place. For example, instead of taking a perfume from the box like Lucky Guy would do, maybe you should have played Perfumer. But I would not exactly agree with this. I think that there are some problems with this argument, because Lucky Guy doesn't just specifically choose one item at the beginning of the match. They will usually wait to find out what the hunter is so they can choose something that is powerful against that hunter, or the situation that they're preparing for. Another thing is that they can also use something in the late game. For example, there might be someone on the chair and nobody else can heal. Now they can go and get a syringe, or they can get a flare gun. Another reason why this argument doesn't hold up is because Lucky Guy, compared to the other survivors, is a little bit more unpredictable for the hunter, because when you're going against a perfumer, you know exactly what they're going to have, which items and abilities they're going to have. For Lucky Guy, you don't know which item he has until he uses it or you see it in his hands. But sadly, due to his ability requiring a lot of downtime, he is seen as a hindrance to most teams, and we can understand the reason why. Moving on to Hell Ember. His abilities do seem very strong for low tiers. His chair camping abilities are very strong because he can get double hits just as soon as the survivor comes to rescue. Also, for lower tiers, his map pressure feels very insane because he can be almost anywhere on the map and his puppets can chase you around and pressure you off of ciphers. Even in high tiers, a good Hell Ember player who's been practicing a lot can be a really powerful opponent, and most survivors can't play against this. But the problem with Hell Ember is that he isn't consistent, and he has some huge flaws that make him less competitive. Hell Ember's main weakness comes when it's time to chase a survivor. Yes, he may be very good at camping and also quite good at map pressure, but if he can't get a survivor down at the beginning of the match, as we've seen with other hunters, especially in today's Cypher Rush meta, there isn't much that you can do. You need to get a survivor down within the first 60 seconds or sooner. The reason why his abilities are not very strong at chase in the beginning of the match is because his abilities require Fury or Embers. These things will increment over time, also increasing when he gets stunned. But if he doesn't have energy, then he doesn't have his abilities, and his hitbox isn't crazy like Wu Chang, White Guard, or Photographer's Attack. Even when he does have his abilities, he is depending on an AI to be able to chase a survivor. Sometimes you can circumvent this by cornering a survivor, but in most cases you have to really depend on the AI to be able to do the right thing and not go off and get distracted. Now, when it comes to his map pressure, it's also a big problem because yes, he does have some map pressure with his puppets being able to teleport to them, but survivors can dismantle them and it's not that difficult to do it. Because of this, he can't knock down a survivor, he also has no map pressure, and his camping abilities don't work because he hasn't got anyone on the chair. What does he do now? These problems are magnified, especially in today's meta where a lot of survivors have a long survivability and a long kiting ability. For example, Mercenary has a lot of durability and will take much longer to knock down. Wildling also has this problem where you have to hit him multiple times to be able to get him down. Also, Perfumer and Entomologist most recently that will be very difficult to go against as a Hell Ember since they can push around the puppets, or they can always stay out of your reach and you can't do anything about it. NetEase hasn't forgotten these characters though, because they are still making skins and accessories for these characters, and there are no buffs or adjustments that have been announced or even rumoured about them. I think that NetEase really isn't bothered by them at the moment and is happy to leave them where they are because of the position that they would take if you were going to give them to beginners. If Hell Ember is too strong, then beginners will suffer if they're survivors. If Lucky Guy is too strong, then hunters will suffer at the beginning, meaning that less people want to play the game. For now, all we can do is just wait and see what NetEase will do. We could also theorize as to what we would change to make them a little bit more powerful. What we should do is we should appreciate the players that master these characters, people who play Lucky Guy and have badges for them, people who play Hell Ember and have badges for them. These people are very skilled and very dedicated to a character that nobody else plays. Let's go and give them some appreciation down in the comments. What would you change about Hell Ember and Lucky Guy? Tell me down in the comments below, and give this video a like if you found this information useful, and subscribe if you'd like to learn some tips, some tricks, and maybe some secret information about Identity V that you didn't know. Take care guys, bye bye.